Hello and welcome to Flaunt. Create a life you love after infidelity or betrayal. I'm Lora Cheadle, and once again, we have Terry Real as a guest on my show. For those of you who might not have caught the first episode, go back and listen to it. And because you're going to learn so much from him. Terry's an international recognized family therapist, speaker, and author. He founded the Relational Life Institute, which offers workshops for couples, individuals, and parents, along with professional training for clinicians who want to learn his Relational Life Institute method, which is an amazing method. And we're going to talk about that a little bit today. But for now, welcome to the show. I'm really happy to have you.
Oh, great. It's great to be back. I loved our first interview and I'm happy back for more.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, today I would really like to talk about a couple of things. First is the concept of relating. Relationships are about relating, and we attract people who trigger us for our own healing. But then those triggers get so bad and so painful, and things like
Uh,
infidelity happen. So, how do we know when we're evolving, when we're growing, and when it's time to be like, I think my lesson is to walk away?
well, that's a great question. What I'd like to do, Laura, assuming that there are people who didn't get our first interview and probably aren't going to go back and listen to it, for those people who are just reeling from infidelity, let me check that question and return to it. And I'd like to just quickly review some of what we said earlier about the process of coming back from infidelity.
That
Uh,
would be helpful. Yes.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I'd like to help people. So, first of all, on the one hand, most couples do come back from infidelity, although it depends on what you mean by coming back. Most people survive infidelity, even without therapy. 2 out of 3 couples survive. But I'm not interested in helping people survive. Um, what I say is if you're going to pay the price, then you might as well use the catastrophe of infidelity as fuel, as a springboard for transformation. And in our work, relational life therapy, we use infidelity for those who make it as a way of transforming each of the two partners and the relationship. I have zero interest in returning the couple to the status quo. You're going to grow or you're going to die, but you're not going to stay the same. That's how it goes. So let me talk about the sort of quickly review the steps of the process.
Yeah, absolutely. Because listeners here, same thing. They are not interested in going back to what was. This is whether they're going back as an individual or whether they're moving forward as a couple, they all want to move on and get better.
Yeah. And in RLT, relational life therapy, the method I've created and trained thousands of therapists, um, we don't consider successful couples therapy as saving every couple.
Yeah.
We consider successful couples therapy as ending the misery. Uh,
Yes.
our our enemy is more of same. You're in the misery and decide you're out of there, fine. You're in the misery and you're in a transformed long-term relationship, fine. If they're kids, yeah, better if you can work it out for everybody. But if you can't work it out, we don't like staying for the sake of the kids. Get out. So,
Right.
okay, so what does working out look like? So the first phase concentrates on the betrayed partner, the hurt
Yes.
part. And we consider this a true trauma. Uh, in the sense of trauma really means your basic assumptions are shattered. You lean against the wall and you go right through it. I lived through an earthquake in San Francisco, and the earth like rolled like we were on the ocean. I was like so discombobulated because solid wasn't solid. Solid acted like, the things I didn't even think about a bit. So when you were in Chicago, you weren't really in Chicago. You were really, that's trauma.
Yeah.
My reality has been messed with. Black is not black. It's suddenly red. And we treat the hurt partner as a trauma survivor. Are you eating? Are you sleeping? Do you need a short stint of antidepressant medication or sleep medication? Do you need short course of, there's a wonderful therapy called EMDR that will help with intrusive thoughts that you can't get. Do you need immediate help to get through the next 5 minutes? That's how it is. That's the first phase. And when that settles down, then we can start to move into the next phase. Now, on the involved partner's side, if there is to be healing, the price of admission is accountability.
Yes.
I did it. And I'm sorry for the pain I caused you and maybe the kids.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, and maybe her partners will have a hard time hearing this, I don't insist on, I'm sorry I had the infidelity.
Right.
Um, because maybe I'm not. Maybe that's bullshit, frankly. Maybe the affair or the one night stand or whatever it was opened something up in me. And frankly, I'm not sorry I did it. I'm sorry for what it did to everybody. And as a therapist, I never condone that kind of lying. And let me be clear, infidelity is not the same as an open marriage.
No.
Infidelity means two things. There's a transgression. We have a contract, for example, for monogamy, and I broke it. And then there's deceit. I lie about it. I cover my tracks. And you can be unfaithful in an open relationship, by the way.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. That's a thing.
Because people just love transgression. Sure, let's have an open marriage, but just not my sister. Well, guess what? You know, not anybody in my hometown. Well, guess what? So there's transgression and there's deceit.
Yes.
And deceit, as you well know, the sexual transgression is like a deep puncture. So it just goes right in the heart. Oh my God, I can't imagine. I think of you and him or her. I think of you having sex. It's just it's indescribably painful. Right.
Yeah.
That's the infidelity. The deceit can actually do even more harm
Yes.
because the deceit kicks the legs out of the normal tools that we would use to come back from a breach in the relationship. Everything I say to you could be a lie because I'm a lying, manipulative son of a gun. And so
Yes.
how do you come back from that?
Yeah.
It's dicey. So the first order of business is accountability. And unfortunately, more often than not, the involved partner is what we call a ragged disclosure. It,
Mm-hmm.
it's unfortunate, but try as I jump up and down and tell people to do otherwise. Most unfaithful partners do not come completely clean. It's yeah, I did it 3 weeks later. Well, yeah, I also did that 5 years ago. And a month later, well, I didn't tell you. That's unfortunately. And so it's just getting killed as the hurt partner. The other thing that is just so sad is, you know, a generation ago, well, I'll make it heteronormative. A generation ago, a woman would find lipstick on a guy's collar. Now you have 30 pages of salacious text, but it's like you're tortured with this stuff.
Yes.
So it's a deep, deep hurt. And the involved partner has to sit there and tolerate the pain that they've caused. And it's hard to do. So you may, if you're not getting where you need to go, the two of you, for God's sake, get help, and get help that really helps. I'm sure you have a list.
Yes.
There's thousands of relational life therapists I've trained around the world. Go to my website. Don't be shy. When you need help, when you can't do it yourself, that's when you need help. So
Yeah. And I'm glad that you said that, because I know when I went through it, and so many of the people that I work with too will say, I never thought this would happen to me, and I'm way too embarrassed to get help. And it's like once you start asking for help, you realize you're normal. There are people that can help, and it helps. It really helps. Getting help helps. And then you feel better and things shift. And I love how you said it's about ending the misery. So, do you want to end the misery? Get help.
yeah, get help. There are online groups, but I want you to get help with someone who supports your relationship and not
Yes.
just you as an individual.
Yes.
Unfortunately, there are a ton of online groups, therapy, women's group. You know, ah, I wouldn't let that son of a gun get, and you will actually be, my friend Esther Perella writes, talks about the new shame of taking the son of a gun back.
Yeah.
It's like, what kind of world are we in? It's heroic to take the son of a gun back. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
But this culture is so individualistic and anti-relational. It's like, well, how could you put up what self-respecting person? No, you're fighting for your family, man. You're fighting for your kids. If you can get through it and use it, and the person you're with is truly remorseful and learns and comes out the other side as a better partner, then any girlfriend, mother, therapist you have who's saying, dump the son of a gun, be self respecting, and rip your family apart, the
Mm-mm.
hell with them. That's not help I want you to have. So, okay, those
Yeah.
are some general thoughts. And then the third phase is understanding. How could this have happened? And here and there are people where there's honestly not much to understand. That two good people, good marriage, good sex life. I don't know. I was on a business trip in Amsterdam and I had a one. Here and there you get that. But 99 out of 100 times there's something going on.
Mm-hmm.
And it's either the relationship is off or stale or constricted in some way. Somebody needs to open up the windows. I don't condone how they do it, but those windows needed to be broken open. Or there's nothing wrong with the relationship primarily, and the involved partner is narcissistic. They're just selfish.
Yeah.
I say, you don't ask somebody why they cheat. You ask them why they're monogamous. Why you cheat? You look great. It's flattering. It's pleasurable. Why not?
Yeah.
Well, the why not is I don't want to hurt my wife. I don't want to hurt my kids. I don't want to ruin my sense of integrity. There's a lot of reasons why not.
Yeah.
By definition, if someone's cheated, they've overridden that no. And by and large, either the relationship has gotten so threadbare in a way that the impulse to protect it is weak. And you see this a lot with women who cheat. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, I had 1.5 feet out the door, and if it blows up, it blows up. The hell with it. Or you override the no because your valuing of the connection of the family doesn't outweigh your selfishness. That's more narcissism. And we live in a narcissistic age. So I try and differentiate which of the two it is predominantly. It's usually both, but what,
Hmm.
and deal with it. And what you want, and it is hard for the herd partner to hear this, but as a therapist, what I want the involved partner to identify and own what parts of them they were looking for in the infidelity. And rather than suppress those parts and be a good boy or good girl, take those wilder parts and bring them back into your goddamn marriage. I don't want you to shrink. I want you to recommit to aliveness and honesty, but with the person you're with. How's all that?
Oh yeah, and I love that so much because of everything, because it explains my personal situation, but also my philosophy around all of my IP with flaunt. We don't compress, we don't constrict, we flaunt, we put it out there. And in that honesty, in that vulnerability, that's where the magic happens. And that's where we can come together and learn and relate and spark off of each other and create joy, because life and relationships is about joy. And being a lone wolf is not joyful, being in connection is. So phenomenal. Thank you. Yes.
So let me go back to your first, two questions.
Yes, I did.
What is the relating in relationship? Like you're a relationship expert. What the hell does that even mean? And then two, how do I know when to stay and when to go?
Yeah.
So,
Because at some point, when I'm the only one doing the relating and there is no accountability, or there was just little tiny bits of it, at some point, I need to take my gifts and move forward.
yes, absolutely. But only after you've tried everything in the book. And
Absolutely. Yes.
and trying everything in the book includes getting an ally in a therapist. And let me be clear about what I just said.
I want to unpack that because, yes, so many listeners are probably thinking, wait a minute, a therapist is a neutral third party. Some are, but in my professional opinion, that's not as powerful as having an ally. So, yes, let's unpack that and say more.
Well, this is part of my training. Anybody, any coach or therapist out there, come and train with us. Listen, the cardinal rule in couples therapy is thou shalt not take sides. Everything's 50-50. Well, guess what? Bullshit. And infidelity is a great example. This is the feminist critique of family therapy. Not everything is 50-50. You don't ask an abused wife, honey, what was your contribution to the, I mean, that's grotesque.
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing with infidelity. Look, okay, we had a shitty relationship. I own my part in that. You can deal with our shitty relationship without going off and having sex with somebody. That's
Yes.
not, I'm not taking responsibility. That's your decision, not ours, honey.
Yeah.
So, no, I look, one of the distinctive features of relational life therapy is we are not neutral, we take sides. And when there is an obvious power imbalance, when there's an obvious imbalance in responsibility, we empower the one in the one down position to stand up, and we bring the one in the one up position down. And that's our brand. That's what we do that other therapies don't do.
Yeah. And that, listeners, you know me. I'm a lawyer. I'm about justice. I'm about creating justice within your relationships, within the world, and most importantly, within yourself. And this is how you do it. And sometimes you need help. Can you learn self-advocacy skills? Absolutely. But sometimes it does take that third person to be like, and listen, this is how we're bringing you up, and this is how we're bringing them down. Not out of blame, not out of shame, but out of rebalancing the power dynamic. So, amen to all of that.
Thank you. Amen. By the way, I should mention, it so happens that today there's an article in the New York Times. It's in digital today. It will be in print on Sunday, February 9th. I did an 8-session course of therapy with a guy who was one up. He wasn't unfaithful, but he had an anger problem. And I did the work that I'm talking about with you, and it turned out he was a journalist, and so he sold his experience to the New York Times. Love for people to read it. I love the title. The title is, wait a minute, the title is, What Can an Expert on Masculinity Teach Me About My Marriage? Everything. That's the title.
Ooh, that's a great title. I will definitely put the link in the show notes. I haven't checked it out yet either, so I will do that after this, and then I'll put the link in the show notes.
Yeah, it's great. Anyway, so yeah, get a therapist who will back you up and not do the tell me more. You need more power than that.
Mhm.
Okay. So should I stay or should I go? Assuming you've done everything you can and you don't get through. Assuming you went to one therapist who was neutral and passive and tell me your feelings, and got rid of them and got a therapist who actually knows what they're doing, and it still didn't work.
Mhm.
Here's your question. I call this relational reckoning. There's an article about it. You can get it on my website. Should I stay or should I go? One tool, relational reckoning. And that tool consists of a question. And here's the question. Ready? Am I getting enough in this relationship to make grieving what I'm not getting okay with me? Am I getting enough to make the pain of what I'm not getting okay? Assuming they won't change. I've tried. Therapists have tried. Can I live with this? Am I okay with this?
Yeah.
You know, I'm Bill and I'm with Jill, and Jill, like so many women, unfortunately, has a sex abuse history. I was with a lot of lovers in the past who would swing from chandeliers and go crazy. Jill, on the other hand, needs to be in control. It needs to be slow. It needs to be gentle. Wild orgies, even if it's just the two of us, not in the cards in this relationship. Do I miss that? I do.
Mhm.
What do I do with that? Nothing. I feel it. I bear it. We're out together and I'm watching some other wife and she's in some guy's lap and I know she's a wild character. Oh man, I don't have that in this marriage. Right. Okay. Now what? So, but here's what I do have with Jill. I have a deeper connection to anybody I've ever felt in my life. I have intellectual stimulation. She is a great mother to my child. This woman has my back in a way that no one ever has. I can relax into her in a way I feel more loved and loving. Oh my God. And we have a great sex life. It's fine. Do we swing from chandeliers? No. Is it good enough? It's good enough. And in our culture, we don't teach people how to digest grief and disappointment. We're imperfect. So, is this person going to change? Well, not after two therapists and a year of jumping up and down. No, they're not. Assuming they're going to be how they are, am I getting enough? And if the answer is no, get out.
Mhm.
If you need help to get out. And if the answer is yes, don't walk around nursing your resentments.
Yes.
Move into that joy that you radiate, but move into that joy, embrace what you're getting and celebrate it. Let go of your grudge and put your arms around the pleasure. So
Mhm.
that's how you know. If the answer is no, I'm not getting enough, you're done. If the answer is yes, I am getting enough, let go of your resentment and celebrate what you're getting.
Yeah. Yeah. And this spirals around to what we were talking about at the very beginning, the two prongs of betrayal. One is the physical transgression, the other is the deception. This is a deception. This is a deception of self. If you are saying, nursing your wounds and constantly focusing on that, the person you're deceiving is yourself,
Yeah.
because you're not allowing yourself to move into that joy, to move into the connection and the other aspects of that relationship that brings so much to you.
You have to look, you can get triggered 20 years later. That's normal. It's like my metaphor for coming back is grief. You know, God forbid you lose somebody, a dear friend or a family member you adore. The beginning of it is, how am I going to get through the next 5 minutes? Just like infidelity. How am I going to sleep tonight?
Yeah.
3 months later, it's a little calmed down. 3 years later, it should be in the background if everybody's done their work. But 20 years later, if you walk down the street and a particular song will come up, or you'll look at somebody who looks like their affair partner, and when you get triggered, tell your partner, don't act it out. Express it. Don't don't be it.
Yeah.
I'm being triggered. Here's what's going on for me. The involved partner, whether it's now, 3 months, 20 years from now, honey, I'm sorry. Tell me about it. What are you feeling right now? What do you need from me? You're a compassionate teammate,
Yes.
and you own it. I did this to you. My behavior did this to you. I'm really sorry. Is there anything I can do right now? And if you're a sane person, that's really all you need.
Yeah.
Let me hear how you're doing. Is there anything I can do right now? I'm really sorry I did this to you. I did. Are we okay? Yes, pass. So you can get triggered forever, but there's a difference between being triggered and just nursing the grudge.
Yes. Yes.
If you have an accountable partner, they learn, they're truly remorseful, and your partner's moved beyond their selfishness or their people pleasing or whatever they did that got them in the corner, and you've moved, and the marriage has moved, let it go.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Dare to take the yes.
Yeah. Now, what I hear beneath the surface in some of this, when you talk about nursing the grudge, so often I feel like that is an unconscious attempt to bring the other person down. And I think that's just sometimes an important thing to be aware of. Why am I not feeling empowered enough to state that I'm feeling triggered, to share, to talk about it? Why am I just nursing this grudge, hoping somebody's going to see how hurt I am and feeling sorry for myself and bringing them back down? There's just so much self-reflection in that, when the ultimate goal should be, I don't really love the word should, but it should be creating a healthy, happy relationship. I want to be connected to you. I want to be supported by you. I want you to support me. So why would I not be honest in expressing my needs?
That's exactly right. And you know what's so odd is the same people, and particularly hetero women, I'm going to say. I mean, a lot, big generalization, okay, we get that. But nevertheless, the same person who is afraid to rock the boat and tell the truth about what's going on with them, afraid to make a request. Honey, I'm feeling triggered. Could you just put your arms around me and hold me? Honey, I'm feeling scared. Could you reassure me for the 5,000th time that you're not going to run off and leave me? I know it's irrational, but would you? It would help. The same person who won't do that because it's too vulnerable has no problem complaining, being angry, yelling and screaming. Isn't that odd? If you're not courageous enough to just ask your partner for what you want, why are you so courageous that you're willing to yell and scream and carry on? It's like, wait, that's more dangerous. Wake up. But we do it all the time because there's no vulnerability in angry complaint. In fact, righteous indignation is a drug.
Yes.
Contempt is a drug. And if you read my last book, Us,
Yes.
um, I make a big distinction in my work between individual empowerment and relational empowerment.
Yes.
And a lot of hurt partners were disempowered in their relationship. Uh, a lot of hurt partners are people pleasers, are more enabling, codependent types, men or women. Excuse me. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
You know, a lot of involved partners have I'm going to take men, have a good boy, bad boy split. So they're constricted and good in their intimate relationship, and they're selfish and bad, but have joy and pleasure and aliveness out in the back alley.
Mm-hmm.
Men have to integrate that. These guys in particular, these people-pleasing guys who show up in their marriages uh, sort of as I'm going to be the good boy and do what's necessary, but I'm dead inside. When I say to when the partners say to me, how could they lie? I say, they've been lying for 20 years.
Yeah.
Every time they say yes and they mean no, they're lying. They've been lying. Their whole relationship is. So I have to teach these people to be more authentic. On the other hand, the hurt partner is quite often put up with irresponsible or distant or selfish behavior that they had no business putting up with for decades. And now look at what it gets you.
Mm-hmm.
I want people to be fierce. I want people to be honest. You're talking to the guy who wrote Fierce Intimacy. Take each other on, tell each other the truth, but you have to learn the skills of how to do that.
Yes, and I'm so glad you went there because it does take skills because otherwise I lean into, in your words, the unbridled self-expression. And then I'm ranting and raving, and my partner is not capable because he does not have the skills then to be like, oh, I see that you've just slipped into unbridled self-expression. And here, let me pull you back out of that.
Okay, exactly. You find that guy and I'll date him. I mean, listen, we're not each other's therapists. We're not mom and dad, and we
No.
don't. Bad behavior elicits withdrawal or bad behavior.
Yeah.
The dream that you get to act like a brat and your partner's going to reach in and go, honey, I could really sense that you're hurting. Yeah, good luck with that.
Doesn't happen. No.
No.
So the skills. So how do we start learning some of these skills? Because I know for many of the people that I work with, it feels so overwhelming when all of a sudden the blinders are off and they realize things about themselves and they realize things about their partner and they just sit there and look at each other and they're like, "Oh, too much. Too much."
Yeah. Well, it may be, and if it is, it is. But you've had me on, my work. One of my 8 million sayings is, "We all marry our unfinished business."
Yeah.
Uh, Falling in love means this god or goddess is going to complete me, or at least I'm going to be able to avoid my childhood wounds. A real relationship means, oh my God, this person is sticking it right in my eyeball. How did that happen? Well,
Mm-hmm.
you picked them. That's how it happened. I call it the mysticism of marriage.
Yeah.
Once they're through the honeymoon phase, who they really are is exactly the person who's going to drive you back into your old unhealed wounds. But when we're back in the old drama, oh my God, my husband, my wife, my spouse just betrayed me in exactly the way when I fell in love with them, I knew they wouldn't. In exactly the way I was betrayed as a kid. Now what? Well, what 99 of 100 of us do is we try and get that son of a gun, give it to us.
Yeah.
Give me what you promised. And that's the merry road to hell.
Yeah.
If you turn and deal with the wounded parts of you, and again, therapy is helpful, and then you turn as an adult to that person and say, we're in the old wound. Let me do something with you that I couldn't do as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Most of us have partners who are enough like what we grew up with, that we're back in the soup, but who also have enough resources that if we do something different, they may do something different. And that is what heals. Not getting them to never throw us into it, but when we're in it, we recalibrate. We literally go to a different part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex. We turn to a partner like an adult and we use a skill, and son of a gun if they don't respond. But yes, you have to learn that. Here's my plug, if I may. Please, 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 listeners, come to my website, terryreal.com. We have offerings for the general public.
Yes.
We have a beautiful course on healthy self-esteem, which is completely misunderstood in our culture. A great course on boundaries. And if you're coming back from infidelity, you absolutely need an emergency kit on boundaries, both of you. And we have a course on the art of relational living, basic relational skills. So learn and learn together. Become what I call partners in recovery, partners in health.
Yeah.
But don't expect to know how to do this stuff. You have to learn, just like I did.
Yeah, just like we all did, and that we all continue to do too, because that's something else that I'm really passionate about. It's not that, oh, my husband cheated, he did. We repaired it, we did. Bam, it's over. We still get triggered. My adaptive child will still show up. His will still show up. We will still have bad times. The difference is there's an awareness. Oh,
That's
this
right.
is a bad time. And this is what happened. And this is where we went wrong. And this is how we're going to correct. And this is how I can be honest and express. And this is how you can help me. And then we can move forward without brushing it under the rug.
That's the container. I call it relational mindfulness, second consciousness. One of my 8 billion sayings is, it isn't what you do, it's what you do after you do what you do.
I love that.
And I also say, in a marriage, everybody gets to go crazy, but you have to take turns. And sometimes even that, you have to come back. You have to know there has to be something more than just the craziness. Okay, I was crazy. I admit it. I was mean to you. I'm sorry. What do you need? Let's come back from this. The
Mm-hmm.
art of repair is a central subject in our teaching. How to repair when the wheels come off.
Yeah, yeah. And that's something also, listeners, if you grab his book, Us, From You and Me to We, there's a lot of great information in there also about repair and just the concept of repair. And I know when I first had my husband listen to that book, it was the first time he had ever heard the phrase repair. And he was like, wait, what? You can repair a relationship? And it's like, yes. Yes.
Yeah,
Disconnection and repair. Yes, that's what it means to be in a relationship.
that is a relationship. I got that from Ed Tronick, an infant observational researcher who looked at mothers and infants.
Yes.
All relationships are an endless dance of harmony, disharmony, and repair. It's like walking, balance, imbalance, balance. Our culture doesn't teach us how to repair. It doesn't even acknowledge the rhythm. Well,
No.
a good relationship is all harmony. What's your problem? Yeah, right. I don't know who you've been talking to. I like to say a perfectly happy marriage is a marriage you don't know very well.
So true, so true. And you brought this up earlier about like grief and our cultural society. We don't talk about how to metabolize grief. And similarly, we don't talk about what a real relationship is like. We think it's the Hallmark movie scenarios. And we don't talk about what it's really like to recover from infidelity and what it's like to be in relationship. I really don't think a lot of people even understand what it means to relate and to be relational, whether it's in an intimate relationship or a very powerful friendship. And I was wondering if you could just say a few words about how you see a relationship. We did harmony, disharmony, repair, but what else? What does it mean? What are those green flags? What does it mean to be in a really good
Yeah,
relationship?
yeah, that's great. So yeah, so I started talking earlier about individual empowerment. Uh,
Yes.
First of all, one of the things that I focus on is we're trying to be relational and intimate and loving in a culture which is anti-relational, which doesn't understand intimacy. Intimacy is a new demand. Historically, my parent, I'm older than you, obviously. My parents and grandparents, they didn't want intimacy, stability, companionship, fine.
Yeah.
But we want to be lifelong lovers these days, and we don't have the skills to pull it off. Our culture doesn't teach us. Patriarchy, which we all live under, and individualism, which we all live under, they don't breed intimacy, they breed stability.
Yes.
So one of the things I say is that leading men, women, non-binary folks into true intimacy is synonymous with leading them beyond patriarchy. Look, I don't care. You're obviously younger than me, but I guarantee you, when you grew up, there was pressure at some point to learn to be a good girl,
Oh, 100%.
accommodate, don't be too forceful, don't be selfish. That's the traditional role. Well, guess what? That gets you cheated on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And men are taught that our egos are founded on our performance.
Yes.
Please take the self-esteem course. Healthy self-esteem comes from the inside out. You don't earn it, you don't add to it, you don't subtract from it. My basic worth is the same as yours and everybody else's. And our culture doesn't run like that.
Mm-mm.
Men, by and large, there are three forms of unhealthy self-esteem: outside in. One is other-based esteem, which is big for women.
Yes.
I have worth because you think I do. And if I'm going to feel good about myself, you better feel good about me. And I'm going to twist myself in the knots to make sure that you feel good about me.
Mm-hmm.
That's other-based esteem, which pushed to extremes becomes love addiction. If you don't feel good about me, I go through a self-esteem crash. But one of the things I say is pathology is rarely an aberration from the norm, it's an exaggeration of the norm. Right? Like mania is being too happy, depressed is being too sad.
I like that.
Being a good girl, that's patriarchy, honey. That's
Yes.
all women are raised to be.
Yes.
And you're talking to the guy who wrote the book on fierce intimacy. I don't want good girls. I want truthful, loving women.
Mm-hmm.
Men don't have healthy self-esteem, and what we lean toward is what we call performance-based esteem. I have worth because of what I can do. I can
Yes.
give my wife an orgasm. I can close the deal. I can catch the ball. Well, that's great if it works, but what happens on the day you don't catch the ball?
Right.
Um, I'm a piece of shit. So, because men, I teach us all, the first step for a man in learning how to be accountable in a relationship is self-esteem work.
Mm-hmm.
If you confront me with my imperfection and my very self-esteem is based on I'm doing a good job.
Mm-hmm.
If I let in your confrontation, I go into a shame state. I'm a worthless piece of crap. I don't want to feel that. So what do? I ward off your criticism.
Mm-hmm.
I bob and weave. Well, yeah, I wasn't actually unfaithful. I don't think blowjobs are really unfaithful. Thank you, Bill Clinton. Um, it's bullshit. In order for me to be accountable to you, I have to embrace my own imperfection.
Mm-hmm.
It's and we men are taught that to admit imperfection is to be a big loser. I mean,
Yes.
so but what a lot of women move into is from with a lot of therapy support, they move from disempowerment to individual empowerment.
Yes. So true. And that
And I
is not healthy.
no, I summarize individual empowerment as I was weak, now I'm strong, go screw yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And particularly hurt partners. Hey, I over accommodated in this relationship. My therapist says I need a voice. I want to tell you what an awful person you are. No,
Right.
that's
Right.
relational empowerment, which you radiate, is the wisdom of I was weak, now I'm strong. This is what I want from you.
Mm-hmm.
I want to tell the truth to you. I love you. What do you need? I want you to come through for me. What can I give you to help empower you to do that? Who sounds like that? We're a team. What can I give you to help you be more responsible or more open or less critical or less? These are the things I want from you. Let's work together.
Yeah.
That's us.
Yes.
That's us, not you versus me. And
Exactly.
that has to be taught in this culture.
Yeah. And I think that was such a beautiful way to bring this back around full circle too, to my very first question, which was, when do I know that I'm still learning, that I'm still doing this dance and that we're growing and that maybe it's time to walk away? And I feel like what I'm hearing you say is when I am relationally empowered, when I am able to identify my own needs and I'm able to communicate and offer and give. And if that is the place where I'm not being met, and then I have more grief and more pain than what I'm getting, that's when I know I have done everything. I have become my strongest version of who I am. And then that would be the time to bless, to release, and to move on, not with anger, but with such joy and pride that, you know what, I learned all of this stuff. And now I know when it's time for me to leave.
Yes, and the only step I would put before that is getting help because you may
Yes.
not be able to get through to your partner, but someone who's trained might be able to.
Yes. Get
So,
help. Always get help.
yeah, so bring that full voice into your relationship. If that doesn't work, get an ally, not a neutral, oh, tell me more about how you feel, but an active person who knows what they're doing to take your side. Hey, listen, Bill, she's right. You're wrong. You're going to lose her. Listen up. And if the therapist you're seeing is not doing that, they are throwing you under the bus. Go get an RLT therapist.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for calling that out because if it's not helping, go to somebody who can help.
Yeah. I learned this from my wife, Belinda. She's so gutsy. Uh, she was talking to somebody. She needed to make a return on a failed, thing she bought or whatever, and the person was giving her the runaround. And she said a sentence that has been incorporated in our lives. Here's a sentence: "Oh, oh, yes, I think I'm talking to the wrong person. Could I speak to your supervisor?" And it's like, "Oh, dear therapist,
Yeah.
tell me more about how you're feeling. Tell me more about how you're feeling. Tell me more." Yeah, I think we're talking to the wrong person. Let me try a different person.
Yeah.
And only then do you do the relational reckoning and get out. But first, find somebody who can actually help you.
Yeah. I love that. Well, thank you so much for your wisdom, for your time. I will definitely link that New York Times article in the show notes, as well as information on the self-esteem course, the healthy boundaries course, all of that stuff. So people can take care of themselves, connect with a relational life therapist, do whatever it is that they need. So thank you for your time.
And bless you for this work you're doing. There's so many hurt people who have no idea how to come back, or even more, not just come back to the same old, but if you're gonna, what I say is, if you're gonna do the time, at least use the crime. If you're gonna suffer, and man, there's few things on earth that bring more suffering than this, then get help and use the suffering to grow, both individually and, if possible, as a family. So you're doing great work. I'm delighted to be with you.
Great. Thank you so much. And listeners, have an amazing week. And as usual, always remember to flaunt exactly who you are, because who you are is always more than enough.